Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Bucket List by Only in Your State. We are kicking off season 3 with a bang with our second exploration challenge. This time we're heading up to Michigan. I'm here with my co host Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Marissa. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
I see you have windows open, which I'm kind of jealous, actually. I'm
I
assuming it's
don't want to
beautiful there.
look, it's 70s and sunny, and I don't want to talk about it just for your sanity.
Okay, fair,
but
fair, fair. Yes.
yeah, it
First day
actually
of
did.
autumn.
You are absolutely right. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
um, I didn't even realize, but yeah, it is like we've had a few days of that crisp fall, kind of like gloomy. I'm wearing hoodies and beanies. I swear, the
Love
first time
it.
I stepped on a leaf and it crunched, I threw on a beanie. I'm like, yeah, this is it. It's time. Not going back.
So jealous because
Yeah.
here today it is probably going to hit 90 degrees, scorching hot heat.
Oh no.
So, gotta love it. But
Yeah.
with that said, so we're talking about Michigan this episode, and I just wanted to do a quick icebreaker.
Okay.
Um,
All
Nothing
right.
to do with sandwiches this episode,
Okay.
but
Fine.
I just wanted to drop some fun facts about Michigan,
Mm.
brought to
Mm-hmm.
you by Only in Your State. This is an article that we have on our website, 13 things you probably didn't know about the state of Michigan. I'm not going to go through all of them, but
Okay.
let me know if you know some of these. Shout it out. If not, don't worry because I did not know either.
Okay.
But so kicking it off, Gerald Ford, the 38th president, was from Grand Rapids. Did not know that. Did
Nope.
not also know that he was a football star.
Really?
Yeah, we have a picture of him playing football.
Okay. Did not know that
Yeah,
either.
yeah, very interesting. Another one, the Detroit Zoo was the first in the United States to feature cageless open spaces for the animals.
Really?
Yeah.
What year was that? I know it's going to make me very sad just to hear
Oh,
that.
last year. No, just kidding.
Oh
I'm
no.
not sure. That's actually a really good
Yeah.
question. But yeah, I thought that was a
Good.
fun
Good.
fact.
Yeah.
And then I know that we're going to talk about Petoskey.
Yes.
Okay, so
Well,
the uh, the Petoskey is Michigan's state stone, and it can be found along Lake Michigan. But that's also the name of a town, right?
yeah, and the area
Okay,
that we highlighted on our exclusive map is the Petoskey area, which is like a natural area, so not specifically about the. I don't think so, but
okay. And do you know the most common nickname that people use when referring to Michigan?
so okay. Do you mean like a Michigan person living in Michigan or the state?
Yeah, like the state, like how in Florida it would be the Sunshine State.
Oh, I just know that people refer to the mitten of where
Oh
they
yes,
live.
yes, the mitten.
um, no, I don't know.
So it's the Wolverine State.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not know that. But when you think about Wolverines, it's not Hugh Jackman in a bodysuit. It's an actual animal.
No, a very
Um,
vicious, like ferocious animal.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Okay.
then it's interesting because they don't really live in Michigan. These Wolverines, which I thought was interesting. But
I'm getting
yeah,
mixed messages. I mean, I
I
know
know.
that the Michigan State or University of Michigan, they're the Wolverines and they're,
Yeah.
the Buckeyes' natural enemy. So I knew that.
Oh,
So it's
really?
a college feud. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I'll drop that. If anybody else wants to read about some fun Michigan facts, I'll drop that in the show notes so we can have a link to it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so we're taking an adventure through Michigan this episode. Season 3, we are talking about essential, quintessential road trip stops. And we've already featured Ohio, which was our last episode. Now
Yes.
we're traveling to Michigan. And before we are coming out with these episodes and our companion articles, we're asking readers on our Facebook page, only in Michigan Facebook page, to let us know what they think are like the quintessential road trip stops.
Yeah.
So we over, I think, maybe 2,200, 2,300
Yeah.
comments.
People are
So
coming out with their
I
recommendations. I love
know.
it.
I love it too. I think it's so great that people get so passionate about their home state or the state that they
Hmm.
live in. Did you have any, just like off the top of your head or without researching first, any places that you knew that you wanted to add to this episode?
So there were a lot of places that I think we've even talked about in the past in other episodes. So, like obviously Saugatuck, Michigan, which I think is beautiful. And I saw on a lot of comments, Sleeping Bear Dunes,
Yeah.
um, like Pictured Rocks,
Yeah.
National Lake Shore, uh, Royal Isle or Isle Royale. I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I think, yeah, there's some spots like natural spots I knew that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised we saw a lot of mentions of them.
Yeah, so we're going to cover a decent chunk of these reader suggestions. We're going to talk about it this episode, hopefully inspire people to travel to Michigan. Now I feel like is the perfect time to be going to Michigan. I'm sure,
Absolutely. Yeah,
like,
it would be
yeah,
beautiful.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not going to cover everything in this episode. So we are going to include the article link in the show notes. Again, it's going to be an article linking back to onlyinyourstate.com. And from there, you'll be able to see our main road trip stops. Sarah's coming up with a Michigan playlist. That her Ohio playlist was fantastic. And so you can
Here's
listen to that on your
hoping.
road trip. Um, and we're going to have a little passport too that people can download, print out, use it as just like your bucket list checklist. These are the places I've been to. These are the places I want to go to, kind of thing.
I will say that the the playlist should be epic because I mean the home of Motown. So there's going to be a lot of
Right.
there's going to be a lot of big names on that list that I think is going to be really fun.
I was very, very much impressed with your Ohio playlist because so many surprises for me on that
Yeah.
list. I did not
Yeah.
know so many people hailed from Ohio or were just like representative of Ohio. So
You know what? I feel like we're a sleeper state in that kind of way because a lot of them, go off to be big famous musicians or astronauts or presidents, but they just get the heck out of town and then make us look good. So that's great.
yeah, but so yeah, I think, do you want to just like jump right in and get started on some of these main road trip stops that we're going to be adding to our map?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So this one also pronunciation wise surprised me. Mackinac Island, and it ends in a C, but it's not Mackinac, which,
Yeah, I
right?
definitely have called it
Okay.
Mackinac my entire life and even doing this research and I think in previous episodes.
Yeah,
So,
I
whoops.
was like, where'd the C go?
Yeah, I got
Ha-
very confused whenever I was doing some research and I saw a thread with people fighting about it and I'm like, well, I that went right over my head. I had no idea.
right, because then I was also seeing it spelled NAW at the end.
Yes,
So
yeah.
okay, so yes, we'll just go with Mackinac Island. So this is probably one of the most popular places that people were recommending. Make this, if it's your first
Yeah.
time in Michigan, if you've never been, go to Mackinac Island. It's basically picture just rugged cliffs, shoreline. It's on Lake Michigan, and but then also it has these little weird curveballs. Like it's known for having homemade fudge,
Yeah.
which, like, that, I feel
Love
like
me
that's
some
so
fudge.
cool. I
Yeah.
know.
Also, I wanted to add on to this because they also have Fort Mackinac or Colonial, I think, Michilimackinac. It is their basically a historic, frontier town, kind of like history town. So basically, it is an 18th century fort and trading village that they've, recreated based on historic maps and archaeological excavations. And it's like a really fun learning opportunity on the island. And you can explore the fort and also fire a cannon, which I'm a child, and I'm like, oh, that sign me up. I'll get up at 9 in the morning
Wow.
and fire the ceremonial cannon. I think you have to like sign up for it. Like, can't just walk up and do it. However, cool.
Not just like random firings of cannons.
Like, hey, let me get that cannon. I'm ready.
You bring your own cannonball.
They're like,
That's
ma'am,
really
please
cool.
leave. Yeah, right. It's really neat. But I do think that having those sort of historic farms and forts and all those things that we can learn about the past while actually seeing it is a really neat experience.
Yeah, definitely. I yes, because I feel we're adding this as a road trip stop, but essentially it could be a weekend, it could be a week. This could be its own experience, day trip wise,
Yes.
between the historic sites, the hiking trails, the fudge, the cannons. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, so let's add that one into the mix. And
Hmm.
so I know that you have a good mix of stops of your own that maybe are
Yes.
outside of the natural. Do you want to throw some of those in?
Yeah. So a couple of the ones that I thought were really interesting was first the Frederick Meyer Gardens and Sculpture Park. So it's not just a giant park. It's, I mean, 150 acres, and it's a botanical garden, an art museum, an outdoor sculpture park, and it's in Grand Rapids, opened in 95. And basically, it's just this awesome place that you can go and explore and see tons of rotating art exhibits. And what I like about it is it's not just like an inside drab museum. You can go outside and enjoy the park and see all of these like really neat installations. So, all sorts. Like there's little statues of cows and farmers, but then also like surrealist art, and then also like
Hmm,
different kinds of moving sculptures. So it's really neat, and I think that would be a great stop. And that's
that
in
is cool.
Grand Rapids.
Nice. I love a good museum. I feel like that's whenever I'm traveling to
Yeah.
someplace new, museum, botanical garden, it's just such a great way to, see something entirely new.
So what
Um,
kind of museum goer are you? Are you a I'm going to walk in, hit a couple of things, this is great, I'm out, or do you like meticulously go through every exhibit and room and you just want to see everything?
yeah, I would be definitely the latter
Mhm.
because actually I just went to the Perez Art Museum in Miami for the first time
Mhm.
last weekend, and I stopped in every single room. They had a Joan Didion exhibit that was 3 or 4 rooms, and
Nice.
I do like to stop and read all the placards.
Yeah.
Like really get a yeah. I guess that yes. How nerdy of me that I can't break the rules, just follow.
No, that's great. That's
What
great.
about you? What type are you?
I mean, I think I've evolved through my life, like, which I really regret some of the art exhibits I went to as a teen. So, like, going to the Louvre and like not taking time to see everything and just kind of
Yeah,
like going in and out. And then now I lean towards, the latter, like where I want to canvas everything. And especially if there's like an exhibit that I love the artist or anything like that, I could spend an entire like half day in a room because I'm just really excited to see Salvador Dali paintings, stuff like that.
yeah. No,
So, yeah.
definitely. That is a good point. I do feel like the older you get, the more you really appreciate and want to
You
like
want to read a
immerse yourself.
placard, yeah.
Maybe
Help
even
out.
twice. Who knows?
Mhm. Get the audio tour. Yeah.
Yeah, heck yes, I would do that. Okay, back to Michigan. So I'm gonna throw in another, which also just the reading the nickname of this place. I don't know why it cracks me up. I would love to know if Michigan residents call Porcupine Mountains the Porkies. Is
I
that a
hope
thing?
so. I saw that too. It's adorable. Like, oh, we're gonna head up to the Porkies this weekend.
Right. I
Love
was
it.
like, please, I really hope this is true. Because it's like, the Rockies, but instead,
Yeah.
it's the Porkies.
Them porcupines.
So, Porcupine Mountains, this is another natural stop, and this is classified as ancient mountains, which I also think was very cool. And basically, the perfect place to go hiking, backpacking, camping. You have old growth forests, there are waterfalls, Lake Superior's right there. And I just feel like this is another great way to see outdoors in Michigan, quintessential place.
Yeah, I feel like we might have talked about the Porkies in our things to do playlist on the podcast. I feel like because we were talking about autumn and leaf peeping
Mhm.
and trails, it's like, yeah, I got to head up to. I did not refer to them as the Porkies. I was not cool enough to know that yet.
I
But
will
yeah,
never again call them
mhm.
Porcupine Mountains.
But yeah, I think they look like a gorgeous place to visit.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, let's see. I think I'm going to go. You know what? I still want to talk about something natural, but it's something that I have always wanted to see ever since we covered it on Only in Your State, and it's the Kachitikipi Spring, the
Mm.
largest natural spring and Michigan's largest natural freshwater spring, 40 feet deep, 200 feet across, and 10,000 gallons of water is being fed into the spring from the limestone below, and that it's just gorgeous. You would not expect it to be in Michigan when you see this thing. It just seems
Mm.
otherworldly. And there's no like swimming, kayaking, fishing, anything like that. But you can get on a hand crank raft, and you might need to wait in line during the busy season, but basically just get like cranked out into the middle of the spring on this raft ferry and be able to see down to the bottom, and it just looks like
Mm.
such a cool experience.
That's really cool. I've never heard
Hmm.
of a hand cranked raft before.
Yeah, it looks great.
That's really neat. Yeah, there are a lot of natural springs in Florida that you can swim in, a lot that you can dive in, um, but you also have to be careful with alligators. I'm assuming there are no alligators in this one.
I don't think so. No, 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 no. And I have a feeling that they're just trying to preserve it because it's not a overly large spring. So I just think they're trying to
Right.
keep it as safe and clean as possible. And the raft is ADA accessible, so no matter who you are, you can go and enjoy the cool little raft. And yeah.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, I would
Mm-hmm.
definitely do that for sure. Okay, so jumping a little bit, just to let people know, our map that we've created for this exploration challenge is going to be customizable. So you can add your own stops, you can remove stops, and we're also creating little subsections, which I think is fun for people that maybe, like if we're including lodging options, you can choose one or two that you really want to check out, or in this particular episode for Michigan, we're featuring the Lake Michigan Shore Wine Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I think, has about 15 or 16 stops,
Yeah, it's pretty
which
lengthy.
I know that you said you drink local wine in Ohio. Have you ever been to Michigan to any of their wineries or anything?
No, but I would love to. I've had Michigan wine and Michigan cider, and everything I've tried has been great, but I've never actually went up there to try any local wine while I'm there.
Yeah. I feel like this sounds like just any sort of wine trail.
Mm, mm-hmm.
I don't know if me personally, I wouldn't have expected to find it in the Midwest.
Yeah,
Um, I didn't even know that Michigan had any benefit, like regional benefits for their grapes in terms of climate. I guess
yeah,
just, naively, I thought it was just very cold up there
yeah.
a lot of the time. But a lot of the popular grapes grown, the Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Chardonnay, Riesling, Pinot Noir,
Yep.
and some of the best parts about this trail, you're going to these vineyards and it's beautiful in terms of scenery,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like that makes the experience even better. Rolling hills and lush landscapes, and then you're tasting wine. Like,
Yeah, the perfect activity for fall, and they do seem to be
mm,
pretty close together too. So it's not like you're driving hours and hours between each one. So you could pick. I mean, you're not going to survive 15 wineries in a day. Let's just like be reasonable here. But you can pick
challenge
five.
accepted.
Yeah, right. Um, but it does seem like a really fun way to spend an afternoon, and maybe I'll have to do that sometime soon. Looks
Yeah,
gorgeous up there.
yeah. All right.
Okay. So I think the next one I want to talk about is this almost didn't make it on the list. I was waffling a little bit, but it's one that I think you actually unearthed, and it is the Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. And it is bizarre. It's like going to a vintage sign museum or a neon sign museum, and it's just like all of these oddities together in this 5,000 square foot um, building. So coin operated machines, like oddities, pinball, like just any kind of automaton that you can think of that just like wind up and go are in this museum. And the admission's free, but I will say if you have, what is it, so robophobia or pediophobia, which is dolls, so robots or dolls, you will not like this place. It would terrify you. So keep that in mind, because there are just tons of these, like, like Ask Zoltar, and like these like
Mm,
basically little robot guys that you wind up in Seco. And it does look like a lot of fun, and just a completely unique museum that I have never come across anywhere else. So I think it's definitely worth a visit.
yeah, I do agree. I think that when that section specifically that we're including on our road trip maps, the
Yeah.
oddities and the roadside
Oh
attractions,
yeah.
is probably my favorite.
Hmm.
Just because there's a lot of weird stuff. One of them, I think one of them we're including at the Henry Ford Museum is like Henry Ford's last breath or something in a jar. Um,
The By the
yeah.
way, let's go to this Henry Ford Museum, because this is on the list.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I did not. Whenever I read Henry Ford Museum, and all my time, working at Only in Your State, I just assumed it was a car museum.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's like this museum of American innovation, and it just like just runs the gamut of like having so many interesting things. Like the I'm not sure what that means, the last breath of Henry Ford, but I will find out.
Also,
Um,
how do we fact check that?
yeah,
Yeah.
how do who breathed into a cup and then just put it in there. But also so yeah, race cars, modular houses, microprocessors, airplanes, just everything in the suburb of Dearborn in Detroit. It just looked like the coolest museum.
Yeah.
um yeah, that really, it really caught me by surprise.
Yeah. Agreed. And yeah, speaking of Detroit, we do have a couple of spots on the list in that area in particular. A lot of people were recommending the Detroit Institute of the Arts.
Yes, oh my goodness, that place looks amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
So,
it's I feel like it's like one massive, like 700,000 square feet for
yeah.
one. And if you've been to, I mean, I know we've already discussed museums, but if you're a museum lover, I feel like it's just one of those that you'd have to go to, like the MoMA or the Guggenheim. Like it's just on the list, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. It's crazy to me how many, like exactly the two that you just referenced, in New York, but having a place like this, Detroit Institute of Arts, that I didn't know existed
Yeah.
before this particular episode, but it's such a gem that, I think that's what's so fun about asking people from Michigan, like, what are the places that we need to talk about?
Yeah.
And they know these places exist, but not too
Yeah.
many people would be like, oh, I'm going to go to Michigan to go to museums.
Right. And there's this world class, absolutely amazing museum right in your backyard. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's any other notes I had about it. I think over 700,000 square feet, because they recently updated it in 2007, and over 100 galleries. Like, Marissa, if you're hitting every one, you might
I,
take the whole day.
I can't even imagine. That would be,
Yeah.
yeah. I I wonder how long that would take, to be honest with you, because I feel like I hit at the Perez was, gosh, I don't know, 10 to 15, and it took me, so
Yeah. So 100 galleries. How many exhibits do you think are in a gallery? Like 50
right, yeah,
plus?
that is
So
crazy.
I think you're going to have to split up your days, to be honest.
Yeah, you have to bring a tent and camp out
Yeah.
inside
Just
the.
sleep under an exhibit and wake up. It'll be great. Okay.
Yeah. What else did you have? Do you have any other like cool or weird places?
So there are a couple other Detroit spots that I want to hit
Cool.
before we move on. But if you're a fan of the Supremes or Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, Jackson 5, Stevie Wonder, The Temptations, the list goes on, I really think you should take a visit. Okay. I really think that you should visit the Motown Historical Museum, also known as Hitsville, USA. And
Hmm.
it's just in a home in Detroit, and you can see rotating exhibits. Right now, I think they have one that's honoring the Motown Review, which is spanning a nearby Riverwalk. But basically, in the '60s, Motown's roster of stars basically all got on a bus, So I got on a bus and traveled across the country to perform. And during that time in the 60s, with, both black and white performers, it was like a really, it's not a social experiment, but there was a lot of stress and tension involved with these people going across the country, and they just, made history and made a name for themselves. And it's a really cool exhibit that basically you go along the river walk and there are stops for each little point so you can like learn as you walk, which is really neat.
That's awesome. That's very
Yeah.
cool. So is this the exhibit? It changes. It's a rotating exhibit. You said.
Yeah, so right, I think 1 or 2 times a year they change the exhibit in the Motown Museum. That's what's running right now. So yeah,
Cool.
that's really cool. So that is in 2648 West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, Michigan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really realize how big of a music scene Michigan had,
Hmm.
specifically Detroit. But
Oh yeah.
you picture Detroit and it's just more automobiles or those stereotypes. But yeah, the music scene was really huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really cool part of history to explore.
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to throw back in the mix one more natural attraction that was mentioned a ton of times by our Michigan readers. It is the Tequamanen Falls
Ooh.
State Park.
Okay.
So, Tequamanen. It is
Yeah.
in the Upper Peninsula, which also a lot of people in Michigan, just when we were asking them, are throwing out Upper Peninsula as just like that's the blanket statement. That's where you need to
Yes.
go. Upper Peninsula, period.
Looks gorgeous. Did you also come across Yoop?
No.
Like, I'm continue. I'll follow up on that in very shortly.
Okay, so this is just a majestic waterfall that it has the upper and lower Tequamanen Falls. And what's cool about this waterfall is that it's not your typical dark blue, greenish water. It has an amber hue to it,
Oh.
which yeah, so a lot of these photos of this waterfall people are taking in autumn, which is
Mm.
gorgeous. You have autumn hued, amber hued water, and then all of these colors from the leaves, and
So
just
is it from like surrounding minerals in the water, like
yeah. So it's basically the
sulfur?
the tannins, yeah,
Okay.
the tannins from the nearby cedar swamps.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, so that's kind of what is staining this water, but very rare color, which might be why it's so popular. Uh,
Yeah, it does look beautiful. Although I will say, whenever I'm out on a hike in Ohio and I come across like a yellow crick, I'm like, no, that's not good. That's no good. Let's go the other way. um, that's
yeah.
really cool. And I just wanted to confirm the Upper Peninsula or the UP or the Yoop, which is now however I'm going to
Oh,
refer to it. The
okay.
Porkies, the Yoop. This is great. They have so many great
Get it
nicknames,
now. You.
right?
I thought that was like a mountain range you were going to talk about, but that's the nickname for the Upper Peninsula. Yoop.
Got to head on up to the old Yoop.
Is it
No, I
just
love it.
UP?
No, it's YO. Well, I mean, yes, they do
Okay.
say just like UP, but also YOOP, the Yoop.
Interesting, because I was picturing in my brain YUPE,
Mm,
but that's
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, I got you.
Okay. Cool. The Yoop.
Yeah,
Tequamanen Falls in the Yoop.
it looks beautiful. I think my last. So I will say, I have a few other runners up. So before I hit my last one, the Sioux Locks boat tour. You can go through a tour of the locks on on the Great Lakes, and I think it's a really neat kind of like learning experience because you probably don't think about how massive shipping boats and containers go through these like channels, and
Mhm.
still have locks in operation. So that's fascinating. Also, Turnip Rock, that is a site on the lake that I think a lot of kayakers visit, and it's just like really unique. Has a lot of rock outcroppings specifically at this one location. The
Cool.
Estevant Pines Nature Sanctuary, the Petoskey area. But I'm gonna finish my contributions with the Belle Isle Park, which is back in Detroit. I mean, I'm just giving. I know. the entire state is not just Detroit. It just so happens that there are a few things that we came across that were really, really cool. But Belle Isle Park is literally just an island in the middle of the river in Detroit, and it has so much stuff. So not only is it a park, but it has so it's almost 1,000 acres. It has an aquarium, a conservatory, a Great Lakes Museum, a nature center, a giant slide, like all of these different things that you can do on the island. So it just seems like a really cool thing to see. And plus, the conservatory is just beautiful. This big domed building that I know I've seen tons of pictures of on Facebook and on our site. So it's something that I feel like everyone should see at least once.
Cool. You said a
Yeah.
giant slide
Yes. Um,
into the water, or
oh
like
no, but
a
like
potato
a
sack slide?
imagine like a state fair, and you know how you get those little slides where you sit on a burlap sack and you go down,
Yes.
something
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
How interesting. Random,
Hmm.
but interesting.
Maybe it was a
Cool.
limited time exhibition, but hey, go back and check for the slide. You never know.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I used to love the slide when I would go to the carnival.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's
Unless you like
product
hit a
of
seam in it, and then not as fun.
just tumbling down. Cool. Um, yeah, so we have so many places on our map that we are going to share with everybody. We have a whole slew of restaurants, I think 10 to 12 restaurants. We have maybe eight
Lodging.
or, yeah,
Yep.
so many cool places to stay outside your normal hotel option.
Yeah, and I will say that I personally have been I love this feature of having this custom map with different sections because they're all color coded and have different symbols and stuff. So you can start planning your trip a little bit easier, and it's not just a wealth of information. But you can start seeing like if things are in the U P or if it's down near Detroit, and how you can plan these things out and how many wineries you can hit in one day. You'll be able to figure it out.
Yes. Yeah, I do think it's a very cool resource that I would love for people to use, not just visiting Michigan for the first time, but also if they live there and maybe
Yeah,
they, if you need some inspiration to go out and explore for a weekend and you don't know where to go, maybe use this map, create a customizable itinerary. And, I feel like we're doing a lot of the legwork in order to
yeah.
promote these adventures. So, yeah, I think that's a fun aspect of this season in particular.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's the first day of autumn as we record this, and get out there and
Mhm.
enjoy Michigan. It's going to be beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.